Kia ora. Today I'm going to go over how and why to turn a lawn garden into a much more useful edible space. So lawn gardens they've become a pretty iconic part of Kiwi culture, and it's like the big Kiwi dream to have your own home with a backyard lawn. But what a lot of people don't realise though is that lawns are actually a colonial throwback to the manicured gardens and manors and estates of the English aristocracy. So those ornamental garden estates were all about British ruling class elites showing off how insanely rich they were by owning acres of bare land, no food crops on it, and because they took up such a massive area, they had heaps of servants to do all the manual labour, all by hand. So lawn gardens were not only upper class symbols of wealth and status, they were also symbols of colonisation, white superiority and domination over nature. Back in the day, one of the main missions of the British Empire was to basically whitewash and sanitise the environmental and cultural landscapes of all the lands that they colonised, basically by taming and converting the native lands and peoples into more civilised English-looking ones. So the English lawn gardens set the standard on how to landscape and civilise all the different settler colonies, and this legacy still affects modern day standards and values today. So for example, if you let your garden become too wild and overgrown, the market value of the property decreases, and this manicured lawn garden mindset is so deeply ingrained into mainstream Kiwi culture I guess that's why everyone's so obsessed with mowing their lawns, pulling out weeds all the time. Grass is actually the most invasive plant species that we have, and in New Zealand the whole country is basically being deforested, transformed into a giant grass paddock. So I guess that's why the gardening kaupapa that I follow is all about breaking free from those British colonial values and standards and re-indigenising the landscape so that it's a more wild, more native, and more natural space. Because unless you like eating grass or you find mowing grass mentally stimulating, lawn gardens are pretty useless, and with increasing food and living costs, turning your backyard into an edible garden or a wild garden or one of those food forest setups is actually a much more practical and sensible use of that space. So this is one of the marakai projects that I'm working on at the moment, and as you can see there's all this grass everywhere that never gets used except maybe by those seagulls over there. The only ones that kind of get any use out of this useless waste of space are the garden contractors that are paid to mow it every 2 weeks. So there's basically a few ways to get rid of your lawn. If you've got chickens, pigs or goats or some other grazing animals like that, you can pen them into a small space for a few weeks, depending on how many animals you got. Like the more animals you have, I guess the less time it'll take, and they will basically get rid of that garden space, strip it bare. And if you've got no animals, then you're gonna have to do all the labour yourself, but just by, I guess the best way is by smothering out the grass using like a sheet mulch method. That's where you score old sheets of cardboard, strip off all the tape and lay it down directly over the grass and cover it with layers of organic material like wood mulch, leaves, grass, clippings, rotting wood, soil or compost. And if you want a bit of a harder workout, you can also completely just dig and turn under whole clumps of grass with the roots up, and then cover it with cardboard sheets and again more layers of organic matter over the top. The best time to do this is before summer, or down here anyway, which is our dry season, and that's just to ensure that the grass dies and breaks down, and you might have a few bits of grass pop up in the edges, which you can just pull out or either smother with more sheets of cardboard. And once you've got this bed of sheet mulch laid down, you can create pockets of soil beds, I guess, or veggie beds over the top, plant your food crops, or you can, the other alternatives, I guess, to do a real high density mixed interplanting of fast growing natives, pioneer plants, biomass plants, fruit trees, and then you can just top dress all of those plantings with wood chip mulch. That will also help to eventually shade out and smother any lawn that you've got. And if you've got a larger sized garden or like a field of grass, you don't really need to smother out the whole lot in one go. You can actually do it gradually and create little patches or islands over time. And if you've got even if you've got sheets of old corrugated iron, you could even use that just to smother out your lawn as well. But the good thing about cardboard is that it's easy to source for free, and you can just leave it there to decompose once it's laid down. So yeah, destroying lawns, creating a wilder space like this, for me, is not only an act of defiance and an act of resistance against colonisation and colonial values, it's also empowering because you're building food security, you're breaking the chains of market dependency, you're building resilience, and wild indigenous gardens are a lot less work as well than trying to maintain lawn, because if it's all wild, it basically looks after itself, and it turns a sterile looking suburban lawn nightmare into a rich biodiverse jungle garden space which attracts more wildlife. And I guess the other important reason for me is the way to reconnect physically and spiritually to the whenua, to the land, to the natural environment and our rich indigenous gardening traditions. So yeah, that's it. Mauri tu, mauri oho, mauri ora.